episode 12. But
never a dull moment with the word Wallace's, that's for sure.
I'm married to you.
What does that mean? What's wrong with me now?
You got lipstick on your tooth. Right here. On the other side. Get it? No? Go to the other. You were on the right side, just you didn't get it. That's it. You want me to tell you, guys always tell the woman, no matter what, she may be mad at you for a second. Okay, come a little closer.
You have a little dust on your head. It's been bugging me. I didn't think the camera could see it.
At least she won't get home and say, you had that thing in your tooth all night. I didn't want to tell you.
That's the sign of a good man. I was pointing those things out.
A good person. I wanted to spread beyond the sexes.
You, Joe Ward Wallace, are a project.
I got some coffee in me. Let's go.
Okay. So this episode is really fun. And we have been so open and honest in everything that we've talked about so far. But I'm going to really challenge us not to name names and not to give all of the specifics of the numbers and all that kind of stuff, but to give the real deal here. Because what we've talked about so far is our journey, our backgrounds, our journey to opening the cafe, our experience opening the cafe, what we've been through, what we've struggled, how we've overcome it, how we've, we're still struggling and opening every day, but the strategies, the techniques, the whys, the intentions, and guess what?
And it tweaks and changes as we go, folks, just so you know, but go ahead.
And yes, it does. I don't know what to do with you. I swear to God. I gotta
just take it in. Go. Receive it.
I can't. I will, but it makes it very hard to stay on track.
But then maybe you don't need to. Go.
But you can't keep telling me to go and expecting me to hold the content and know where we're going when you constantly just interrupt my sentences.
Okay.
I mean,
I agree.
Is there I think we might need to. I think we might need to rename the podcast from the In the Mix podcast to the Interruption podcast or something like that.
That's your thing. This is In the Mix. In the mix with Joe and Celia. Yeah, that's just your thing. That's just your thing. Don't worry about it. It's not. It's really. It's probably a lot worse in your head than it really comes across. Believe me, watch when you watch this.
It probably does not come across as what it's actually like.
That's pretty good.
Anyhow, listen, I'm trying to get to some good stuff here. So can you listen for a second? Be a listener, not a talker.
That was pretty good.
I want to talk about, we've talked about the first location, everything under the sun related to it. Mm-hmm. But guess what? We're on the precipice of opening up our fourth location. Okay.
Say that word again.
We are on the precipice of opening up our fourth location in 4 years. Okay. And also landing his history-making contract with the Natural History Museum. Right. 4 locations plus the Natural History Museum. So 5 massive things that have happened in 4 years. What's happening with
and then
you?
On the side.
Wait, what's happening here?
I'm just showing you on the side. I'm just going on the side of that. is you don't mention enough is our foundation. So it's really more than 4 or 5. It's 6 things that we're doing. It's like 6 companies.
No, yes. And the consulting company, which is the Ward Wallace Group, which is part of our overall ecosystem, because the sustainability of the ecosystem, the cafes, people don't understand this. That's a great point that you're bringing in.
Thank you.
People don't understand that cafes themselves, like even let's talk about the 4 cafes, right? And I want to talk about each one of them. Okay. But let's just talk about 4 cafes. And just hear me out, try and listen to this point, is don't get me wrong. The potential for us as an organization, as a company to become profitable and to grow, and for us to build generational wealth for ourselves as well as our employees. That's the goal. That's the aspiration. We understand, though, that the structures that exist around capitalism, around racism, around sexism, around imperialism create these structures that make it very hard for a small business to be successful and to fundraise and to grow. So when you think about any one of these given individual locations as a standalone location, people look at it, they look at Western and go, oh, you guys are so successful because we have engagement, because we have a lot of followers on Instagram, because we have all this publicity and stuff that we get. But when you look at the numbers, what people don't understand is in order for us actually to be really significantly profitable or even be on track to building generational wealth for ourselves and our customers, ourselves and our employees, we need them to come at least 3 times as much as they are right now. Like we need to triple the amount of sales that we have at any given one cafe to even be comparable or competitive with the Starbucks, right? So if people look at a Starbucks on the corner and they think of a South LA cafe, and our most successful South LA cafe might be doing a third of the sales that a Starbucks is, right? That in itself is something I don't think people understand. And so in order for us to create sustainability where, we're not necessarily so-called breaking even at a location, but we're able to create more sustainability through growing our resources, we have our market where we do our grocery bags, where we sell grocery bags to other organizations for their food distributions, right? We have our nonprofit where we're able to fundraise on that arm to support our social services programs for the community. And we have our Wallace group, our coaching and consulting firm that's able to basically be the think tank of all of these ideas and these frameworks and to license it to our own organizations as well as other organizations and to do trainings and retreats and, company leadership development and all these cool things. And all of those things together bring in resources that when you look at it as a whole, you go, okay, we're not rich, we're not wealthy yet. We're not buying assets left and right. We don't have piles and piles of money in the bank, but you know what? We're making it through until we get there, until the next things come. But if it wasn't for that ecosystem of, all those different things working together and you're just standing alone on one cafe or standing alone on 4 cafes, you're still not getting to the point that I think people perceive. They look at us and say, oh, you're so successful.
You open another store.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, did you know that all of our assets, anything we own is completely put up as collateral? Did you know if this entire thing fails, we're basically filing bankruptcy? Like, do you understand the consequence of what it takes for us to have to double down to do these projects and how much faith and drive and why we must have in what we're doing to say as a family with our own 2 children at the dinner table, do we want to do this and understand that this puts our entire future and livelihood at risk? And for us all to say yes, right? And so wanting to, that was a sidebar because I just think it's super important for people to understand. To me, I get really, agitated is not the right word, but I get really fired up because I think people's perception of success is based on what they see on social media, not our social media, but people in general. And so people are flying jets and, driving Ferraris and wearing fur coats. And they're like, oh, this is like, wealth is so accessible. Let me just become an entrepreneur and I could be a CEO of my own company,
Oops.
Yeah. Would you like to be the CEO and, take on debt and risk and put your entire life on the line and have to work 3 times as many hours as you would if it was a city job? Like, you better be willing to do all that because that's what it's going to require. So that's my tangent on that. But what I wanted to talk about was our
I did interrupt.
You didn't. You did so good. Good job, baby. Good job. I love you. You're so good.
You too.
You're so good.
I'd love you too.
Thank you for trying so hard on that. So here's where you can start chiming in because what I wanted to talk about was we had the one cafe. We had the cafe that started in November of 2019. That opened for 4 months, the Western location that opened for 4 months.
We had our grand opening December of that.
Yes, grand opening.
Because I like when you say November, but we know November
was our soft launch. December was our ribbon cutting. And then we go into the pandemic. We go into 4 months without the pandemic. Everything's going great. We go into the pandemic and we just basically have started coming out of it even now. But as we go into the fall of 2022, we end up opening up our second location in collaboration with Kaiser Permanente, which to us was so exciting because we love Kaiser.
Yeah.
We've been with Kaiser for years. And I'm a Kaiser.
Both our children.
Yeah. Our children are Kaiser babies. Kaiser is our medical insurance. All in all, we've had a really positive experience with Kaiser. And of course, who wouldn't want to be associated with Kaiser? Obviously I know just like all organizations, there's things that people don't like about them. And I know recently they've had strikes and all that kind of stuff, but I'm saying all in all as an org, we felt excited about that opportunity. On top of it, it was the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw location, which was in our neighborhood. So here we are saying, if we have locations, the only way we're going outside of South LA is if it's in an iconic location or iconic partnership. But our focus has been to plant seeds and water them in our own backyard, in our own community. Right. So when Kaiser says, hey, we'd love for you to come open up a South LA cafe here in Baldwin Hills, right next to the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall,
I manifest Kaiser to ask that. Are you kidding me?
How'd you manifest it?
When I first saw the space, even when someone else was in it, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a nice South LA cafe.
One day. Yeah. And so I'm wanting to talk about the different locations and the different models because I think it's helpful for people to understand there's all different kinds of ways to do business and have small business and also to scale into having multiple locations. So each one of the locations is a little bit different. Our Western location was completely a full build out, cost multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to build out of our own money and out of loans, right? We ended up our retirement. We got an SBA loan, right? On top of it. That we still are paying on to this day. But we built it from scratch, right? So we had to take the time. We went through submitting the permits, doing construction, doing the build out, getting all the funding, making sure every inch of it was ready. And then we opened up, right? So that is one way of doing it, is putting all the money in from the beginning and building it from scratch.
Then one that I suggest, but it's the way we had to do it.
But sometimes it's the way you have to start, because some of these other opportunities came to us because we started that and we built that reputation. They're not going to just deliver you a super, low overhead investment from the beginning.
Right.
That's not common. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's not common. But then when the Kaiser one came, that was super exciting because we did what we had to do to get the opportunity in terms of submitting our bid and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was basically, hey, we have an existing coffee shop, already has all the equipment. Kaiser owns the equipment. You pay us your monthly fee to be here. You bring in your employees, you run your coffee shop out of here, but you don't have the overhead, right? You don't have the overhead of building it out as far as construction. You don't have the overhead of having to bring in all this equipment. Like you bring in certain equipment, but not all of it, right? And so it's a different model, right? Also it's a kiosk. And kiosk, when I say that, I think people literally think of like a coffee cart or something, but it just means it's a walk up, right? It's not a come in inside, order and sit down inside.
But you have seating outside.
You have a beautiful outdoor area to sit at.
95% of the time it's comfortable outside.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. It has a gorgeous outdoor area. But it's just a different model. I'm just trying to talk about different models for us of South LA cafes, right? So that's been our second location was there. Then we simultaneously had two opportunities come into our orbit at the same time, right? Very closely together. One was the opportunity to bid on a 10-year contract, hospitality contract with the Natural History Museum. The other was the opportunity to put a cafe at the Hollywood Bowl. And have our coffee be in all of the concessions at the Hollywood Bowl. So not too shabby.
Right.
Any one of these.
Hard work pays off sometime.
There you go. And building reputation and focusing on our service and focusing on our why, and then getting to a point where, the museum is in our neighborhood, but arguably the reason we ended up at the Hollywood Bowl was because our reputation preceded us so far and rippled all the way through Los Angeles that it got us out into Hollywood. How did the people at the Los Angeles Philharmonic and the Hollywood Bowl, how are they hearing about us? Why would they think we're a good fit there, right? That reputation and what we do had to reach all the way out there. And
going back to like our previous episode, when we talked about service and the excellence that you're pursuing, people hear about that. And this is an example of that.
Yeah. So do you want to, let's talk for just a second about the Hollywood Bowl business model and how this is also a new version of how to do a South LA cafe. And for other people who maybe want to do something like it in the future, what's cool about the Hollywood Bowl?
Cool about it is like, I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, but they talked about, 100% of zero. Jay-Z is
your person talking about this.
100% of zero is zero. 1, 10, 1, 5, 10, 15% of something is something. I don't care if it's $1, it's 15 cents. So you have to be flexible in business. You have to be willing to try other things and not always, I want 100%. I want it to be me, and I think we went into this because it was different for us. Licensing deal, very different for us. We were skeptical, because we wanted to make sure that they keep that excellence that we have, our reputation. If they're going to be wearing our shirts and having South LA Cafe on the building, then people aren't going to know it's a licensing deal. People are going to be walking into a South LA Cafe.
Let me just pause you for a second, just to give some context, because we haven't explained that it's a licensing deal and what that means.
We don't have to. Most people know what that is.
No, this is an education moment. This is a teaching moment, just to say, because
the details. Do we? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Give your details, Celia.
Well, no, you've already alluded to all of it, but I just want to make it crystal clear for people who maybe are not following this to understand the Hollywood Bowl has a company that already runs all the food and beverage there. It's a massive, massive company called Sodexo. They're the ones that run all of the Hollywood Bowl and the Los Angeles Philharmonic. They brought us in to have a cafe there that their employees will be running under our brand. And so we basically we pay for our equipment and we have some overhead, but all in all, it's not the same as any of the locations. We're getting a percentage of sales. And in return for that, we have less responsibility and less day-to-day obligations. But to your point, the concern for us was, well, we need the drinks to still be perfect. We need the employees to still have our standard of excellence. We need the quality control there. We want to sing from the mountaintops and let people know that we're at the Hollywood Bowl. And when they walk in there, we want it to feel like they're over on Western, just like they would be if they're over at the Hollywood Bowl, right?
Right. Exactly. You just said it better.
No, I was leading into where you left off. Keep going.
Keep going where?
I was talking about the licensing to give them the context to make sure they were understanding what you...
I can't remember where I was. Where was I?
Oh, okay.
That's not important.
I remember where you were at. You were talking about the fact that we had apprehension about doing this type of deal because we didn't know if we were going to be able to have it be consistent.
There you go. Because what we get stuck in as entrepreneurs sometimes is that you want to have 100% of stuff.
Right.
You just do. You want to have full control. And sometimes you just have to, like anything, just take a risk. but a controlled risk. And the control is that we often check. We
have staff come every week.
Secret shoppers. They don't necessarily go with the South LA gear on. And we make sure that their, our quality standard is there. So,
and we make sure that our staff goes at least once a week, does training and retraining, is testing the drinks, is going through the standard of excellence.
So basically, I felt after a while, I felt good about the situation. There was concern, but the staff there is just superb. I mean, we get many compliments from how people are treated when they go in there. So it's working. It's working.
And one of the things we did is we had the staff that was going to be at the Hollywood Bowl. We had them
train
come
with us
and
first.
Spend weeks with us at the Western location,
right,
as well as volunteering with the grocery giveaway, so that they understood the heart and soul of the company. What we stand for, why we do what we do. The other thing is that you are such a masterful negotiator that you saw the opportunity. I mean, it's implied and it makes complete sense, but also it was really important that you went for this, which is all of the beans should be roasted by us, provided by us, and not just at the coffee shop, which is right by the box office, which, just to say, this is a huge deal, you guys. You can literally drive all the way up into the Hollywood Bowl every single day when there's not a show between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. You could just drive right in Lot A all the way to the front. Like if you ever go to a show at the Hollywood Bowl, you're parking, blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks away. But here you can drive all the way up, park
literally like you're right up to the front of the cafe.
Like you're going to the box office and just tell them, hey, I'm going to the coffee shop, go right in any given day. So
you can't complain about parking.
You can't complain about parking.
Hundreds.
And so obviously the coffee they're using there is South LA Cafe coffee roasted by us. But then you go, you do your little ticket for the show. You go up inside, you are getting concessions, and the coffee in the concession stands is also ours in our cups.
In our sleeves.
And in our sleeves, right? So the cool thing that this opened up for us is for us to grow our wholesale coffee division, where we're able to, it's a combination of two different types of contracts. One is a licensing deal where we're getting a percentage of sales. The second is a wholesale coffee contract where we're selling them our coffee also, right? So that's two different things that we were able to set up in this deal. So simultaneously, we got this other opportunity that came along that was to to take over the contract at the Natural History Museum to run all of their food and hospitality services for 10 full years. And when we found out about this opportunity and we looked into it, we realized that they didn't have someone local from the neighborhood that had our quality of experience and caliber competing for the contract.
Right.
And when
they had all these big companies,
they had really big companies, or they had companies that weren't necessarily local. And what they were saying they wanted.
None of them were local. I mean, necessarily.
What they were saying they wanted was local and small business. And yet currently at the time when we heard about the opportunity, they didn't have people competing that fit that archetype. And so, we hired consultants. We put together a whole team. We worked day and night. We put together the most amazing proposal for them about why, Slack, and we developed a hospitality division, why we were going to be the perfect partner for the Natural History Museum for the next decade, to run the restaurant on site, to run the catering division, and ultimately in 2024, late 2024, to open up our own South LA Cafe
on the outside,
the brand new wing of the museum that they're developing that's going to be completely free to the community. So we're going to have a South LA Cafe in 2024 that is on the grounds of the Natural History Museum.
It's the first thing you see.
Open to the public that you could just walk right in. You don't even have to have gone to the museum to go to our cafe. And it's completely free. And the wing that we're a part of is the free wing of the museum, which is so aligned with our vision and our mission about creating access and equity, right? So it's an entry point for people that maybe have not yet had a membership to the museum or not yet ready to pay to visit the museum, but they're going to be able to get activated to all of the magic and inspiration that the museum has to offer. And then they may decide, hey, I want to go inside the museum and I want to get a day pass or get a family
It's going to be interesting when people start saying, no offense to the National History Museum, they're going to be mentioning where we are versus where the National History Museum is. Oh, when people have direction, they go, oh, we're by the National History Museum. They go start saying, no, over by South LA Cafe.
Yeah, Exposition Park.
That.
Yeah,
I love that.
But the thing that was so cool about this, though, and his history making, literally history making, is we competed against the biggest conglomerates in the hospitality.
Didn't he mention names? Just telling you before you could start doing that. Go.
I wasn't going to name any names. Okay. Of course, I wasn't going to name any names. We competed against some of the biggest corporations in the hospitality companies out there. And we won this contract, right? And not only is it a contract for 10 years, but the scope of the contract is so big in terms of what we're in charge of. Now, one of the things that I think is really important for people to understand is that in theory, this move has the ability to help exponentially grow our organization, both by impact, customer base, but also income and profitability, right? In theory, if all three of those, I should say when, because I'm going to claim it for us, but when all three of those things, the restaurant, which is the neighborhood grill, the catering division, which is run
go ahead.
by our partner, TGIS Catering, and the South LA Cafe coffee shop, when all three of those things are, let's say 12 to 18 months from now are just firing on all cylinders, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody's coming and everybody's engaging in all of it, then in theory, the level of potential profit will be a lot bigger than it would be with one of our cafes, right? And overall, that extra level of profitability will create that sustainability for the entire organization, where we can say, yeah, the cafes have small amounts of profitability, but our hospitality division has a larger, aspect of profitability. Our coffee roasting, has, medium. Our grocery division has this, right? And so everything sort of starts balancing each other out, where as an overall organization, we can increase the profitability and create more generational wealth for ourselves and for our employees. But in the meantime, we have to invest in, right? And so that was part of the thing that was overwhelming and very ambitious for us, is to say that we're willing to make a 7-figure investment into this contract to basically pay for all of the renovation and equipment that is going to go into these spaces, into this restaurant, into our cafe, into a catering kitchen. These are all things that we are putting money into up front for a long-term gain,
risk-taking
over time.
That's who we are. We take risks. That's who we are.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Oh, are you saying it all? I mean, what holes am I going to fill? You haven't left any.
It's a podcast, so you're supposed to talk.
Oh, really? I am talking.
Would you like to say anything about that?
About the National History Museum deal?
No, you said risk. Back it up. You said risk taking. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean about that?
Similar to piggybacking on what you're talking about. This was an investment for us. Well, people are, not to say anything wrong with it. People are excited that we got this big old contract, but they're not. A lot of them are not completely aware. It's like, yay! But now you got to do this.
Right. Be careful what you wish for, right? It's it comes, this is a great opportunity, and yet it comes with its own obligations and responsibilities. Right.
And part of that was a big investment. So, and, we're willing to do it because we see the light at the end. We see the vision. We have a vision for this. We know what this can do for us in the future, what it can do for our community. Because here's the greatest thing about this is that, and it just warms me, is that we're able to do more for our people in our own community. And that's hire more. That's make the wages livable wages, make things nice, go back to our excellence of service that we're preaching. Now we have control over it. So now when you go to the museum, you're going to get that same kind of love, the same kind of welcomeness. And not saying they weren't in the part of the museum, but I'm talking about in these spaces. We now control that. Is control the word? We guide it, and I don't know if I said this already, but the opportunity to employ people, you guys have no idea how good that makes me feel. And employ people and bring them through this system.
Right.
Okay. Even our employees are immediately changed because they've not had these kind of jobs before. They've had these kind of jobs, but they haven't had these kind of jobs with what we ask of them.
Yeah.
And it
creates opportunities also for us to uplift the local economy with other small businesses and vendors through food trucks, through pop-ups, through catering events.
So you asked me what I was going to say. Those are some of the things I was going to say. Go ahead.
just say them.
I wanted to. And also we have the opportunity to help, and I can say the names, right? Places like Doolin's, Post and Bean, Southern Girls. What's the other young lady, the caterer, or the chef?
I don't know.
That she was the salad people. All these other, there's a ton of them. I mean, you know more of the names than I do, but it's just the fact that, we personally can make it happen for other people in our community, not just for us. We're working with 27th Street Bakery right now, trying to come up with some formulas that work. That to me is huge, and it's huge for us and it's huge for them.
Yeah.
They 5 generations of families been running the 27th Street Bakery, and they've never been in the museum.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
And Greg Doolin said something very similar to us. Obviously he's legendary and his family is legendary in what they do, and they're so accomplished. And yet at the same time, when we got this contract and when we offered him to come in a certain way, he said, what I'm doing with you guys, I've been trying to do for all these years and I've never gotten the opportunity. And this is the first time that I'm actually able to be in here with my name, with the recognition, being seen for what I do, and, making sure that we understood how pioneering what we were doing was.
He was very, 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 very grateful.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say that this deal is different also than all the other deals, because in some ways this is sort of like our first actual partnership, which you and I are usually slow to jump into. We love collaborating, and everything we do is through partnership, meaning we collaborate, we uplift, we work together, we amplify others. Like, we love all of that kind of stuff. But actually working with another person or organization in a way where you're like enmeshed and working together on a day-to-day basis and having to make decisions together on a day-to-day basis is different and challenging in ways. Like, you and I are partners, and we have our challenge all day, every day also, because we're two different.
You can see on the podcast, folks.
Right. But we're used to that, and we know what we're doing together, and we're, but also we teach that you shouldn't be in a rush to jump into partnership with people, that you should, take this process to get there over a long period of time, because there's so many things to figure out and it can get really complicated and complex.
Take a long time to get engaged. Take a long time to get engaged. That don't even sound right. I was, thank you, Lord, for letting me get that out, because I'm going to bring that back in. Thank you, Lord. Don't bleep that out.
Okay.
Go.
Well, and so in this case, this really is, in theory, a partnership, and it comes with all the complexity and things that we just mentioned that you have to figure out, right? Because now we have the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, who is a nonprofit, who is a county institution, has tons of employees, has, roots in the way they do it, the way they want it done, their expectations. And then you have us, this
entrepreneurs,
scrappy community, leader or org that's coming in and going, we know what we want to do, and we want to be innovative, and we want to try new things, we want to do it right now. And then we want to try this. And if that doesn't work, we want to do that. And so, it has been, and it continues to be a steep learning curve. And I think for us, the amount that we've learned through these additional locations, through the Kaiser, through the Hollywood Bowl, through the Natural History Museum, while iconic and legendary, and definitely part of this history making, sort of run that we're on, also have come with the challenges, also have come with the steep learning curve, also have come with the sleepless nights of us going, what are we doing? Why do we do this? Why don't we just stay with our own little one model? Why are we trying all these different models? Why don't we just rinse and repeat what we're doing? And I think for us, we're ambitious, we're risk takers, we're innovative, we want to try new things. So we've been saying yes, with discernment, we've been saying yes to these partnerships, because they also feel in a lot of ways sort of like that once in a lifetime opportunity, that if not us, then who, right? Who else is built for this? If it's going to be a community org, if it's going to be a mom and pop, if it's going to be Black and women owned, like who else should it be? I mean, of course there's great other people, but I'm just saying in theory, we're thinking, let's go for it. Let's try it. Like, let's do it. And yet it comes with a lot of, challenges, in addition to which, and one of the upcoming episodes, we're going to talk about the struggles around financing,
right?
And so when we talk about this being a seven-figure investment into the Natural History Museum, that's not just money we had sitting in the bank that we signed up and said, hey,
I had $1 million sitting around, did you?
Right. And yet we needed to get the money.
Yeah,
right?
And we knew we have the grind. We knew we would. So
yeah, but to me,
we knew we would. I mean, we had sleepless nights, and it was hard, babe. But honestly, I knew we would do it. If you didn't, I felt it. I felt it would happen.
Yeah, of course. What I'm trying to say,
because I wouldn't have been doing all that if I didn't.
I know,
think so.
But it's.
I don't want everybody to think it's easy.
No.
It's not. It wasn't easy. I don't want you.
I'm saying knowing and thinking that it's going to happen is great. You have to have faith, right? But it also has to be backed up, and you have to do the work and do the grind and put all the due diligence in place to have it actually align to that faith and that vision that you have. And in that journey, there's things that are out of your control. There's things that are out of your control as far as how many people you have to go through and have conversations with and get the no's and the doors closed in your face, the declines, we can't find your paperwork. We know you just spent a month preparing it and sending it to us, but now we can't find it. Send it again. Change this, change out that, right? And so we're going to talk more about that, because I think that is the piece that, yes, we had faith that we would be able to get the funding needed, because we believed that we knew our numbers. We knew that we were qualified.
We set ourselves
We knew
up
that we
for
were
this.
ready.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a big ask.
Yeah. And we had to get people to believe it. It just, because it was there. We had to just keep sending it. We had to keep telling them, yes, this is correct. Here are our tax returns. Here are all that. It was challenging, but in the end, I never never wavered on my faith that it would happen because it's bigger than us. And I just believed that the God, the world, the university, whatever, wanted this to happen because we needed it to make our ecosystem work.
Yeah.
So we needed it to be a part of it. Or I should say we needed something like this.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't this, it would have been something better. Else. Yeah. If it wasn't this, it would have been something else.
And I think that in that regard, I appreciate
That's
that,
what I mean by
appreciate that you took it back to the ecosystem, because that is one of the takeaways that I want people to understand is that we do have a strategic approach of diversifying our business models to be able to have that balance of, like that's what, when you invest in mutual funds versus stocks, right? They say do mutual funds because you're getting a little bit of a bunch of different stocks that when one goes down, the other goes up, and overall you'll balance it out, right?
And that's what we're doing. And we learned that through experience. All of it in one, we learned that doesn't necessarily
not necessarily,
and we didn't necessarily do that because we had other things going too, so we survived that focusing on one. Here we are focusing on many, and we'll have many to balance it. Wow, that's pretty cool.
And as
I like the way I said that. Thank you, Joe.
I'm glad you're your biggest fan, your own personal biggest fan, as you should be. But as we wrap up this episode, I do just want to say,
wrap up. That's the end. Wow. Sorry, go. Wrap it up.
Time flies when you're having fun. Well, what I was going to say is...
Folks, this has been very challenging for Celia. I know it, and it's okay. That's why it's a podcast.
Why? It's a podcast because it's allowed to be challenging.
It has to be. Nothing's easy. I'm telling you, that means everybody would do it. That's why you are awesome.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to talk about, though, is our new baby that we're birthing that I'm so excited about, which is Jefferson.
Oh.
Our Jefferson Park location. So let me tangent on this for a second, please. Just let me tangent.
You're announcing something on a miracle child. New baby. Go. I get it now. Sweat on my head there for a minute. I thought you meant real baby. Go.
No, I'm not talking about a real baby. I'm talking about our business, our most recent business baby being birthed.
Jefferson.
Which is our Jefferson Park, South LA Cafe location. And I want to talk about this one because it's really special for a lot of reasons. Number one is this contract, this lease was signed. Well, and actually, as I say that, there's something that I want to say that I want to put into one of the future episodes when we talk about funding, but it's about ownership, because we do own our brand. We do have our trademarks. We do own our intellectual property. We do own our frameworks. We do own our coffee, right? We do own our logo. We do own our visual branding, but we don't own our locations. We don't own the land of our locations. And that's something that you and I are going to focus on in the next, 2 to 3 years, is as we move forward and grow, being able to actually own the land where we own and operate our businesses, because our original location, which is on Western and Browning, we don't own that location, right? So it's iconic and it's so valuable and so impactful in the community. And at the end of the day,
and we've built that.
And at the end of the day, it's owned by someone that's not from our community, that does not love our community, that does not love us. And so that's a problem. That's a problem in terms of the overall model in general of small businesses. You have all these people from a community renting space, putting money in the pockets of these landlords that are not from our community, don't care about our community. That's a problem. So as I'm saying the Jefferson Park location, what made me think of that is I'm saying when we signed the lease, and not when we purchased it, but when we signed the lease. But all of that to say, we're very excited about this location. It's on the corner of Jefferson and 4th Avenue. It's in.
You gotta come out and see this cute spot.
It's in the only retail space that is the corner of an entire block long, wide apartment building, low income housing building. And we signed the lease over a year ago, before we started the journey with the Hollywood Bowl or the Natural History Museum, it was supposed to be our third location. Right after Kaiser, it was going to be Jefferson. And then these two gigantic opportunities came in our lap, and we had to put this location on the back burner.
And we're dealing with some paperwork too. We could have sped it up, but we were dealing with some paperwork with the city and the county. So we have to put that in there because that's part of the reality of starting a business. So.
Yeah, of course. There's lots of different factors at play. But what I'm trying to say is it's been on the back burner for about the last year because we had some really gigantic projects that jumped in the front of the line and we had some delays. But all of that to say is we're just about to open it up. And to me, I'm so excited about the space because in some ways it feels like the second location. Right?
It does.
And because we've mapped out these different models that we've done, you know, Kaiser being a collaboration with Kaiser, but it's sort of being their own, little building that we came in and we're offering our coffee shop through what they already have their structure in place. You know, then we talked about the Hollywood Bowl. We're so happy to be there. That's a licensing deal. It's a little bit of a different model. Then we got the Natural History Museum. That's a hospitality contract. Yes, eventually we'll have our coffee shop there and that will be amazing. But in this case, this is a space that is feeling like, as we're just about to open it up, feeling so reminiscent of our Western location in that it's a gathering place. Yeah. You know, people are I'm in the place right now working on the artwork, working on, you know, the menus. And I'm just literally in the place going, I can feel the vibe already of people are going to be
unwrapping stuff and cutting my fingers and
making sure we pass inspection. But I'm in there and I'm literally feeling the heart and the soul of the place. And I'm already going, oh my God, this place is going to be packed. People are going to love it. And we were able to get Lanisa to come back. And this is going to be the cafe that she gets to run. So she's over there with me and you know, helping to set up the place.
And I can see she's excited, a little nervous, but
and it's just so exciting. And I just feel like, you know, our Slack standard of excellence about our service is going to be there. And I can imagine the people in the space. I can imagine the events that are going to happen there. I can imagine, you know, all of the cultural engagement and community engagement is going to happen there. And it just feels so exciting. It feels honestly like a little bit of a full circle moment that now we're going back to having another, you know, community center.
You have JB on for the grand opening?
Yeah, I have JB on for the grand opening. But the vision that we had of these places being community centers is coming to life. And I can feel it even before the people are in it. And so
people can't wait, man. It's so funny to watch people walk by. And it's all day long. When I'm in there, it's like, sometimes I just want to put like a curtain up because you can see through. I want to put a curtain up where they can't see me in there so they won't keep not interrupting, but engaging. And I don't want to not, so I'll stop and I'll say hello. And some people I've let peek in. So it's really exciting. It's exciting for the neighborhood. It's exciting for us. Exciting for the people in the building.
It's in Jefferson Park and historic West Adams, which is an extension of South LA that was one of the early areas that became highly gentrified. And so there is a mixed group of people that live in this community that we know will be the majority of the population that patronize the cafe. Right. But it's also right on the tip of the part of the community that is the original people that have been living there for a very long time, or predominantly Black and brown, or predominantly lower income, are looking for a way to stay rooted, stay engaged. And so just like we did with our Western location, we're going to do with the Jefferson Park location, which is make sure that the people know that it is a place for them, by them, that we're hiring local, that the people that when they walk in are from the neighborhood, that know the history of the neighborhood, that the art and that the culture is represented in everything that we do. And it's so exciting. And yet at the same time, I think it's important to have the transparency that we have about all the different models, about this one, to say, you know, like I said, we signed the lease and engaged in the contract over a year ago. And for multiple reasons, we had to put it on hold. And because of that, we've been paying our rent for over a year at a place that we haven't been able to activate and actually be able to drive any revenue through, right? So that's something that people need to think about when they run businesses, is that sometimes you have unexpected expenses that come in that you might have the perfect plan in place, but life intervenes. And then you have a contract and you have a deal at play, and you have to make sure that you're living up to that side of it also. So it's like not everything's, glamorous and just like, oh, another location. Sometimes there's snags. Sometimes there's, challenges. Sometimes there's setbacks, and, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, all of it comes into play.
I agree. It's a wrap.
It's not a wrap.
Oh, it's not?
It's not a wrap.
Jefferson's not a wrap? You're not done with Jefferson? You still got work over there? I thought you were ready to open that thing up tomorrow.
Okay. I didn't understand you were talking about Jefferson. That didn't seem like the right response or any engagement to what I was saying, but let's keep moving on. So as we wrap this up for today, what we've done now is basically illuminate, in addition to our Western location, the Baldwin Hills, Kaiser location, the Hollywood Bowl location, the deal with the Natural History Museum, and now our Jefferson Park location, and how those are all different models, how those presented different, opportunities, but also challenges, wins and setbacks, that duality and that complexity of life are represented in all of these different opportunities that we've taken on. And I think it's really important for people to understand the full circle of all of the pieces that come into it. So what would you say have been your main lesson or takeaway from the conversation?
Is, set yourself, when you do, this is what I got. Set yourself up for, or don't set yourself up. Be prepared. Is that a better way of saying it? Be prepared that you have to have a plan going into these things, but be prepared that it's not necessarily going to go that way. And it's like some of the things you talked about, not being able to open right away after we signed the lease, these other opportunities coming. Do I share my time? Because if you know, and that was a big decision, whether or not you split your time amongst these three things at the same time, working simultaneously to open them. And which one got more priority, all that those kind of things are going to come, and you have to make the decision of what you do. And fortunately, we made the right decisions. By the
right decisions for us.
Yeah, and it's working out, and it's working out beautifully. We did our thing with the Natural History Museum. We did our thing with the Hollywood Bowl, and now we're opening Jefferson Park. Oh, it's just I'm so excited about our future. I'm really, really excited about it. And again, that's what I guess that's what I'm getting at. I'm getting excitement, but knowing that things may change. And we'll have to pivot or do things. I'm prepared.
Yeah.
I'm excited and prepared.
Yeah. I want to talk about my takeaway, but before I do, I
always go off on these tangents. I'm so sorry. The takeaway.
No, you just shared your takeaway. Yeah, I'm going into mine now.
Okay.
So are you done?
Yeah, I'm done sharing.
Okay. So what I was saying is I wanted to tell you about mine, but before I do that, as I was listening to you speak, what was coming up for me was the piece that you just said about deciding where you're going to spend your time. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's an interesting new challenge or opportunity that we're being faced with is when we had one location, everybody knew where to find us, and we knew where to go to work.
Right. Right.
There wasn't that much question in how we're spending our day and what we're doing, what team and staff we're working with, what community members we're engaging with, right? As we have rapidly grown and added more and more locations, community members, employees, opportunities, it has had to inevitably split our time and our attention. Mm-hmm. And while we've done that with intention, it still has been a challenge, right? It has been, it's a daily challenge. Right. Where do we go? How do we do it? How do we grow and scale? You know, how do we evolve as CEOs so that we're now managing we're a chain, we're managing a whole ecosystem of an organization. We're not just managing one location. And so there's so many more variables at play, and everything we're doing is looking at it through a lens of scaling and systematizing, right? We talk about our focus being around manifesting, revenue, roots and rest. Right. And, really thinking
roots and rest. Go ahead.
Yeah. Manifesting revenue. If opportunities come through our pathway, is this something that is going to increase our ability to create profitable revenue for our organization so that we can build generational wealth for ourselves and our employees and ultimately have a greater impact on our community? That's one of the things we're looking at as a litmus for ourselves. Beyond that, we're looking at, is this helping us deepen our root system, our infrastructure? We're going back to all of our locations and figuring out what needs to be fixed. Right. What can be changed? We sort of did all of this on the fly. It happened so fast. Now we have to make sure everything's being done right and that there's no corners that were cut. There's no processes that need to be changed. How are we deepening our roots? And then beyond that, our rest, how are we caring for ourselves? How are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of our employees? How are we creating a culture around wellness, around holistic approach to business and life? Like, these are the things that we're looking at. So there's so much transition in the way we're stepping into our leadership at this exact moment in time, where people will say, they'll text us, a picture, I'm at the cafe or at one of the locations, I missed you. I haven't seen you in a minute, and it's like, I have this little heart pang moment where I'm like, I wish I was there. I wish I was there for every one of the moments when every one of the customers come in and wants to have the Celia moment or wants to have the Joe moment. And when I'm not there, it makes me feel bad, and then I have to remind myself, you're not there because you're advancing the mission and the vision and the purpose of the organization for all of the people that are being impacted. And that's the growth and the scale and the trajectory that we're on right now. But even within that, that's a learning curve. That's a leadership learning curve of coming to terms with that and learning to be comfortable with that and still figuring out how to be present and how to, be accessible in the same, in not the same way, but in ways as well. So, I guess those are my takeaways. I was thinking that I had other takeaways, but I think those are my takeaways from the conversation, is just that, we're on the forefront of doing something that I just don't know that many people that I've ever even heard or met in my life that have done. And here you and I, two people who are madly in love with each other, are doing together. And it's just an honor. It's really an honor to get to do this work with you.
Oh, baby.
And for God to have blessed us with such an amazing life.
Yep.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Start crying.
Hey fam, if you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode of the In the Mix podcast. And for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please take 1 minute to hit the subscribe button to catch all future episodes. And then please give us a 5-star review. Also, if you want to support our Black and women-led multiracial movement to fight social, economic, racial, and food inequity, please head to our website, southlacafe.com, where you can become a monthly member, sponsor groceries, volunteer, buy merch and coffee, and make a tax-deductible donation.
Sending you lots of peace, love, and blessings from our family to yours.